Greetings. My name is Chantelle Johnson, and welcome to Through the Storm, a show about finding hope in God through the various trials and tribulations of life. I'd like to share one of my favorite scriptures with you, Jeremiah 29:11, which states, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." I am so glad you're here, and I'm very excited to spend a few moments with you and in what I pray will be a life-changing experience. If not for you, perhaps for someone that you know. Another couple of scriptures, Galatians 6:2 and 1 Thessalonians 5:11, tell us that we should carry each other's burdens, encourage each other, and build each other up. And that is one of the reasons for this show today, to do just that, to help carry burdens that you may have, encourage you, and to build you up. So on episodes of Through the Storm, we will be discussing with you a variety of topics related to mental health from a Christian worldview. We'll be inviting a number of guests that include those who are overcomers and those who help people to overcome. The type of guests that you can expect to see on this show will include people who have first-hand experience of navigating through storms in their life. Storms of life can include a variety of topics, including loss of a loved one, being terminated from a job, a failed relationship, experiencing rejection, abandonment, abuse, and the list goes on and on. And there's a saying that many of us are either entering a storm, in the middle of a storm, or coming out of a storm. And if you're coasting through life right now, enjoy it, enjoy the moment, but know that if you find yourself in a storm, you can look to God and find hope to help you get through it. So I want to introduce my guest. This is my mother, the person who brought me into this world. And we are fairly new at doing this, but she's been my biggest supporter throughout my life. And I'll ask her to say a few words near the end after I kind of talk a little bit more about what we'll be talking about. So in life, we all experience different challenges or significant events that can essentially make us or break us. And how we handle the storms can mean life or death at times. Because God has made us in His image, He's made us as a mind, a body, and a spirit. And we live in a fallen world. We are subject to dis-ease in all areas, in our mind, our body, and our spirit. And it's not uncommon for us to go out and get help for physical ailments like high blood pressure or diabetes. We often are not hesitant to go to the doctor to get help. However, there's often a stigma related to getting help for mental health issues. And often in our community, when we hear about mental health, we might think the word crazy might come to our mind, or we might think about, maybe a relative that is sometimes often in a back room or that we don't bring to family gatherings. We may think like the worst thing that you could possibly think about mental health. But mental health just encompasses so many different levels. It could be something mild as experiencing some anxiety or depression, or something more profound as a mood disorder or maybe a personality disorder. And so when we're experiencing distressing events in life, it can take a toll on our minds and our bodies by triggering intense emotions that impact our physical bodies, stimulating stress hormones and altering the way that our brain sends signals. Also, with increased stress, we may engage in behaviors that take an additional toll on our bodies. For example, someone may have experienced a relationship breakup and feel some very intense emotion of rejection or abandonment. And at that point, they have a choice on how they're going to handle those intense emotions and intense pain. They may choose to binge drink, which could take a toll on their bodies, or they may choose to seek out healthier options. Their choice, if done often and over a long period of time, could possibly either lead to health problems, or it could help them to become stronger within themselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's my personal belief that in order for a person to reach their full God-given potential, we need the power of the Holy Spirit received through faith in Jesus Christ. And so the primary reason for doing this show is going to help so that the viewers will know when the storms of life come, there is help available to get you through any situation, and that God will be with you as an anchor of hope. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and what I do. Like I said, my name is Chantelle Johnson. I am a licensed professional counselor here in the state of North Carolina. I'm the clinical director and owner for Soul Care Christian Counseling Services. And we provide outpatient services, and we also do comprehensive clinical assessments. We provide mentoring and tutoring services. We have a variety of counselors that work with us, and we are able to cover a broad range of mental health issues that range from depression, anxiety, ADHD. We do premarital counseling, marriage counseling, and grief and loss. We do cover a variety of issues from a Christian perspective. And our motto with Soul Care is care for your soul, care for your life. And basically, that's based on the premise that if you're caring for your soul, which is your mind, your body, your mind, the will, and the emotions, if you take care of those, then that will blossom into the rest of your life in different areas of your life. You will be successful. And at Soul Care, we genuinely care for our clients, and we value the counseling relationship that we have. And we work with individuals, children and adults, families and groups. And I'd like to share a little bit more about why Soul Care was created and how it came to be. While growing up, well, a lot of people know that counselors have stories to tell, and I'm no different. And while growing up, for the young part of my childhood, it was great, it was fantastic, not a whole lot of issues, but throughout my younger childhood, just was exposed to and experienced a lot of different issues that included alcoholism, domestic violence, and a whole other range of abuse issues. And so I grew up experiencing a lot of depression and anxiety at a very young age, and not really knowing what to do with that, was the start of something that led me to where I am right now. And I wanted to introduce my mother because one of the things that helped me to get through some of those trials and tribulations of my own life was a knowledge of God and a knowledge of Jesus Christ. For a lot of the issues that I went through, I wasn't able to find a lot of answers sometimes around me trying to read books or magazines or look at other people's lives. I didn't always have great examples to follow, but I did learn from my mother when I was 4. She did an Easter egg hunt, and it was just me. I was the only child at the time, which was cool. That's another story. I love my siblings. But she did a little Easter egg hunt for me, and she painted some eggs. She hid them in the yard, and she was just explaining about the meaning of Easter. But the thing I remember is she pointed to the sky, and she said, there's a God. There's a God up there who loves us and who wants good things for our life. And at the time, that did not sound strange or foreign. I accepted it. And shortly after that, we joined a church that was right around the corner, and that began my Christian faith foundation at a very early age. I was baptized at the age of 7, and that was the beginning for me. I have strayed it off, but I've come back, and that's been an anchor for me at many times in my life. So I did want to give my mom an opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you for inviting me, Chantelle. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about being a mom. It's not always easy to be a mom. While facing history, I want to talk about while facing history and ourselves. I had problems too as I grew up as a sibling. And I faced domestic violence as well. And but I was like the middle child, and I was like in between. I seems like they always say the middle child a little bit different than the other siblings, which was 9 of us. However, facing being a middle child, I experienced domestic, like I said, but I felt like I was entirely different. Even my mom, she was like an angel to me. She was a very quiet, meek mother. I never heard her say a bad word my entire life. If my dad would say bad words or do things or say bad words to her or anybody, she always say you too. I never heard her say a bad word, so she was inspiration in my life. But however, it was an impact on me just to see that she was abused, and so that was sort of like when I grew up. I was very strong because I've seen a lot, and but when I grew up, I was very strong, and when I turned 19 during my high school time, I also encountered with a friend of mine, and also had to deal with domestic violence or violence of myself. And however, I refused to, I was strong because I refused to allow domestic violence to come between my soul and my spirit, because I know the Lord. And in doing so, I always, during that time, I was conceived with Chantelle. And I had love and compassion. A lot of times people are conceived with a child, and they don't sort of like bond with that child at the beginning. But I found myself bonding with my daughter Chantelle being conceived. I found myself bonding, and I decided that I have to do something in my life to make things better for her than what I had to deal with. So as I was conceived, I went off to Boston because I want to get away and focus on being a better person. And so I went off to Boston. I found a job in Boston through employment, and I was working in a home with a doctor, and they was very nice people in Boston, and they didn't realize I was pregnant at the time, but I was determined that I was going to be a better person, and to be strong, and to allow my child to be somebody. So once they found out that I was pregnant, they was very kind and very nice to me about it, they decided to find a home for unwed mothers for me, and that was a great experience for me. Even that, I experienced spiritually things too from the head of staff. I joined a choir and did spiritual things, and I just felt love, and I just felt positive that I want to reach out and to make my child not to have to deal with what I had to deal with. So at the end, I had her, and she went to a foster home, and I eventually was able to go and travel. So I decided, well, I'm going where my child is. You know, I'm in the, a home for the unweds, and I want my child. I want to be with my child. I don't want to leave her anywhere. I just want her with me. So I went to the foster parents and found out that it was kind of unusual. A foster person said it was unusual for a mother to come back to see her child. And even though I saw another child, she had 2 other children there, but she said it was just so unusual. And I was making preparation to visit my child and to find a job, to find a job. So eventually I moved back after she went into the foster home. They gave me a time frame to find a home for her. And so I said, Lord, what am I going to do? I was still trusting in the Lord to show me what to do about this situation. So I called my sister, a sister that I'd never really gotten along with. She was the oldest child, and we always kind of battled together. But I had to humble myself and ask her, could I come and stay with her? And she said yes, to make a long story short. And Chantelle was loved. She was loved among the entire family. She eventually, because I was seeking and trying to find myself as a mother, she was loved among her grandparents. So you know how your grandparent would take your child in and nurture that child. And along with my sisters that was home, like I said, it was 9 of us, and I was the middle child. And so Chantelle was nurtured. She was like spoiled. They loved her to death. And and so she was like learning a lot of things as well. They taught her how to read or how to write, and at an early age. And so she experienced love with not only my family, but also her father's family. So she was loved. There was no time that they would come and knock on the door. They want Chantelle. It's all about Chantelle. So they loved her to death. And she stood out among the family. And she was not only nurtured spiritually through me, she was also nurtured through her family as well, with her aunties and mother-in-law and all. And we just loved her. But Chantelle did experience some things that I desire for her not to. But we all go through trials and tribulation. We just have to trust in the Lord, that the Lord will bring us through no matter what we go through. We just have to love the Lord, and no matter how people treat us, we have to love on them anyway. So I learned how to be strong. I even bought land. My grandma got in contact with Chantelle, and Chantelle stayed with her for a while. Okay, and Chantelle stayed with her for a while, my grandma. But this story might be continued because it's like a lifetime story, and I'm trying to like rush through it like this. But however, my grandma loved her on her too, and she taught her things too. And she was a Christian as well. So I lived with my grandma for a little while, and then I went to work, and I didn't waste no time in making progress so I can get my child to stay with me and to stabilize my child. So I went to work, and I went to work at a mill, and they were paying pretty good during that time, a long time ago in the 70s. They was paying pretty good, and I ended up buying land and putting a trailer on that land, because still I'm focusing on my child, because I loved her and I want her to be with me, and I want her to grow up to be a good person and to know the Lord. And it's just a lot of things to say, but it's Chantelle has been a great impact in my life, and vice versa. And I try to be an impact in her life as a mom, and I will continue to do so. And thank you all for listening. And thank you, Chantelle.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you. And that could lead me to so many other things. And but she hit on a lot of different points that this show is going to kind of address and talk about the impact of different issues on families, and also how some things and issues go from generation to generation. And it's very important to have the Lord in our lives, because that can make the difference between the trajectory and of us being successful or getting stuck. And one thing that she also hit on, there have been a lot of people that have been placed in my life at different times strategically who have been a blessing to me in spite of the challenges. And that was one reason I wanted to become a therapist, because I wanted to be able to do that for someone else, to be able to be someone that people could come to and talk to and find godly wisdom and godly help in those times of trouble. And I would like to share a song before we leave the show today. And I'm so excited about what can be done in the future and prospects for this show and things that we can talk about and the guests that we will have. But I wanted to share a song that is kind of at the heart of my ministry. It's called Alabaster Box, and it's from the book of Luke, and it's from the story where a woman came with this alabaster box. She came on. Jesus had been invited to a dinner by a Pharisee, and this woman brought this box of expensive perfume and ointment, and she came into the room, and she began to weep and cry, and she poured the oil on Jesus' feet, and her tears just washed his feet, and she took her hair and washed his hair. And the Pharisee that invited Jesus, he was really like looking down his nose at this woman and saying, this prophet, is here. Does he not know what kind of woman this is that's touching him? And she just kept right on. She gave what she had. It doesn't say what her sin was exactly, but I think, maybe it doesn't say, because sometimes we can put our own selves in there. Sometimes when we experience trials and tribulations, they say hurt people. We get impacted by other people's sin, and people get impacted by ours. But God steps in. He's a forgiving and loving God, and where there's much sin, there's much forgiveness available. And so I just want to leave you with that. And there's always hope in God and Christ, no matter where you may find yourself.
Amen.
And so when we come back, I'll share a song. Thank you.
The room grew still as she made her way to Jesus. She stumbled through the tears that paid her the line. She felt such pain. Some spoke with anger. Heard folks whisper, "There's no place here for her kind." She came through the shame that flushed her face, until at last she knelt before his feet. And though she spoke no words, everything she said was heard as she poured her love for the Master from her heart to the Master. And I've come to pour my praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and dry them with my hair. You weren't there the night he found me. You did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box. I can't forget the way my life used to be. I was a prisoner to the sin that had me bound. I spent my days, poured my life without measure into a little treasure box I thought I had found. Until the day when Jesus came to me and healed my soul with the wonder of his touch. So now I'm giving back to him all the praise he's worthy of. I've been forgiven, and that's why I love him so much. And I've come to pour my praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Please don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and dry them with my hair, 'cause you weren't there the night that Jesus found me, and you did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. You don't know the cost of the don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Through the Storm. I've been your host, Chantelle Johnson, and I hope you'll join me next week.